Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the session of Meet the Global Leader, which is organized by School of Entrepreneurship Development. It's a non-profit organization based in Bangladesh. So our main audience is university-going students and small and medium entrepreneurs. So in our country, sometimes they face difficulty having access to information and resources. That's why we have started this platform back in 2018 to share the stories of people from locally and globally, how they do things differently in their way. To share their stories, it will create a positivity and awareness among their life. So today we have invited Anna and Victoria to hear their incredible stories and their professional journeys with the audience of Bangladesh. So Anna and Victoria, welcome to the session. And this session will be hosted by Famida.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
Hello, Anna. Hello, Victoria. So it's wonderful to have you both here today with us. Thank you for being here. Just to kick off the session, I would like to ask both of you, to share a bit about your journey. Like, what did you study at college? The kind of subjects that you were really interested in. Maybe a little bit about your alma mater, the university that you chose to go to, and the current journey that you have. So maybe we can start with Victoria. Okay.
Sure, sounds good. I will go ahead. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a great pleasure, and also to be here with Victoria, whom I know for some time, and we have collaborated together in different projects internationally. Myself, I'm Albanian originally. I moved to the UK to study. I always wanted to study politics. That was kind of my passion in life. So I wanted to be ambassador of the country. These typical ideas that people in politics or that want to study politics, international relations have, and this is what I pursued. I studied at Halt International Business School. This is a very, very great university. I loved about it that it was very small, so very interesting and very helpful to international students. I would say when you go abroad and join such a university, it's very important to be in a nice kind of family environment, especially sometimes the first time for many of us to live alone. So it was very nice to be there. And after I finished, I graduated from politics there. I decided to join an NGO that was founded by a former Nigerian president. He founded this NGO to have a lot of kind of impact in Nigerian youth as well as African youth in general. Girl child education was one of the projects, as well as some agricultural and employment projects. And after I did that, I was very much into this humanitarian kind of world in the very beginning, and I always looked at the UN. It's something that when you study politics is kind of the place to go. You really want to go there. So I was always a little bit obsessed with. I want to join one of the UN agencies, and given that Geneva was so close to London, it was a very, very kind of a natural move to just go there. And this is where I joined ITU, which is the Telecommunication Union. And I had the pleasure and honor to work with Victoria there as well in many, many projects that you will, I'm sure, talk about. After doing around 8 years in the ITU in different positions, working with startups, working with entrepreneurs, working with innovation in general, I moved more and more into the startup direction and investment direction. So I joined the Swiss government and their foundation that supports entrepreneurs in Switzerland to invest in them as well as mentor and coach them to become better entrepreneurs for tomorrow. And then lastly, where I am today, where I'm advising basically financial investors around the world on different tech investments, usually from seed to Series A. I will leave it at this and give the floor to my colleague, Victoria.
Thank you, AnaMaria. Thank you again for having us today. And talking about my journey, we have quite similar journeys, basically. I started my academic career in law. So I was studying law first, and the plan was to become a big corporate lawyer. But in the process, I realized that I prefer human rights, and so that actually pushed me in a totally different direction. and I decided to change to international relations and diplomacy. And while studying in Geneva, doing international relations diplomacy, I had a chance to work with NGO from Zanzibar doing humanitarian projects for them in the healthcare sector. And that inspired me a lot. I realized at that point, still being a student, that that's actually what I want to do. I want to develop this kind of project that would help thousands of people in long-term perspective and maybe next generation to change their life. But having law background and having job background in diplomacy wasn't enough, so that's how I came to do MBA, where actually we met with AnaMaria because we started our friendship slash career path together in doing together MBA in Geneva. And then the next step was joining UN, having already all this academic background that was put together. And after working in the International Communication Union, working with many startups, I was working with a startup incubator that was created on the base of ITU. And it was a great experience, of course, but at some point I realized that unfortunately we cannot always, in the framework of UN, do and help as much as we want. So that motivated me to move out of UN and work independently, work with startups and invest and private investors to try to connect both and to provide more substantial assistance, I would say. That's very brief explanation. Thank you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. My another question would be, like, apart from your studies during your undergrad, like what kind of activities did you both engage into? Like what sort of skill set that it helped to grow? Because we know that during our undergrad, it's one of the most important times to actually work on ourselves, to improve our skill set. So what was differently that you did around your undergrad?
Maybe from my side, I would say the first thing that really helped me was to join all those clubs and societies. That's something that I think a lot of people kind of take it for granted nowadays, and they say, yeah, they are there, but they're not really actively involved. This is a great way to gain kind of work experience without really, being employed somewhere. So you can always say you are like the president of this club or vice president of that society. And that is very good because that way you can actually really say that you have those managerial skills without having anyone employing you in the first place, because you are managing a club, you're managing finances, because sometimes university is paying for these clubs, and at the same time you are also managing people that are volunteers who are coming, and these volunteers are usually the hardest people to manage, of course, because they're not paid to be there. So these are great skills that you can showcase to your employers later on, and this is a great way to also showcase how you can create those leadership relationships, because you'll talk to the school, to the dean, you'll be talking maybe to some sponsors, to some partners when you're doing events. So that, I would say, it's like a key thing to do definitely when you're in university. And also the other thing is to not be shying away from opportunities. Like there is sometimes little jobs. I mean, I always worked at the university, like doing photocopies, teacher's assistant, anything, that was coming up. I always volunteered for it. And people would tell me, why are you doing this? There's no need for it. But afterwards, I realized that I built such a big network. I had so much experience all of a sudden, and so much, not only experience that you can show, but also experience, common sense that creates your common sense, that creates your way of interacting with people. So being active, university life goes so fast. And this is something that I was told many times when I was young from my parents, and I always like ignored it, let's say. And when I did it myself, I look back, it went so fast. And I think it's something, and this is the time also you're not working. So it's a time to really try. It's like a sponge, right? You try to get everything. So try to learn new languages, try to make a lot of connections, try to, like, I don't know, play a new musical instrument, because you have a lot of time. Once you go working, you're like 9 to 5 in an office, or you have your business, and you're constantly just working, doing one thing, read books, all of those things. So that's a little bit what I would do if I went back even more, actually.
Wonderful. Victoria,
Yes, so when I was a student, I was a student body president. and that was quite a lot of responsibilities, because you were being representative of your colleagues to the board, to to the university leadership, and of course it required. I must say that I had to develop a lot of diplomatic skills, because you have to be very flexible. You have to be able to hear and to listen. You have to be able to explain in a way that is not too pushy but clear, because still, like when you're a student, you're young and you're a bit scared that, oh, will I be heard or not? Am I taken serious? So I had to push myself, like to get out of my comfort zone and stand out there and like very clear, explain what we need and push for that and fight for that, but like in a nice way. So I would say that it's very important to really get out of your comfort zone, to try and not yes, maybe not to let any circumstances around. Like we all have doubts, and especially when you're a freshman in university, it's like a totally new environment. But I think it's very important to educate yourself, to get out and really try things out. Thank you.
Well, actually, I second to everything that you both mentioned here, because that's the time that you really have, like, actually work on your skills. You can learn something new, you can pick it up something, and then you can grow connections, and they actually help you later when you actually enter the real world, when you start working. So previously, you both mentioned a little bit about your organization where you're currently working or a part of. Like, to add to more to that, I mean, would you like to explain a bit more on the kind of impact your organization is creating in the community?
I would say maybe if I could start that both of us, and this is how we have been collaborating also for many years together, are in the space where we are connectors, I would say. And Viktoriia can definitely add to that in the sense that we are connecting those companies, those entrepreneurs, those startups with the investment side of things. So we are really looking at where is the best fit. And sometimes with investment, as you may know well, it's all about smart money, right? Which is the right investor for your company, and not only to give you just the cash, because many people might have that cash out there, but to give you also the connections and open the doors that you need. So for example, if you are a company in the medical space, or if you're a company I don't know, in the hardware space, you need a lot of connection, most probably in the logistics and operations. So someone that is an investor that has no idea about logistics and operations might be interesting for you because they might give the money, but they might not be as interesting for you because they don't have those connections in that space. And I think being this connector role that we have, and also of course sharing deal flow with each other, is something that it's very important for the companies out there, because startups today, a lot of people used to say, that there's no money out there, but actually there is money out there. What is missing is connecting the right money with the right companies, because each investor, they want different things. They want specific things that maybe are important for them, but also startups also sometimes they want the right investors geographically in the markets that they want to go to. So this is a very important, let's say, view to take. And given the future of work today, also the remote work and the digital nomad kind of style, this is the space that we're all going towards. So I would say these organizations like ours, as well as the ones that we previously worked in as well, they are going to this space. But Viktoriia can also share more, I'm sure, in this direction of this investment side of things. There is I know she's working on some very cool new investment concepts as well.
Thank you, AnaMaria. Yes, I just to add maybe to what AnaMaria said. Currently, I'm working like one of my projects is a company that does a peace investment. And coming back to a question about impact for community, so basically the purpose of peace investments, it's to encourage investors to invest, to put their money in some in regions or in projects that are in the conflict regions or in some disruptive, disputable regions. and to show them that yes, despite there is a certain risk, but still there is more outcome, and so we are helping them to mitigate these risks and to show that there is opportunities out there that everybody neglects. But this kind of investment, they have a double impact because yes, it's good for investors because they create new markets for themselves, but also, of course, it's good for communities because when a certain region, a certain community gets a chance to develop, to be more prosperous, to create more employment. Of course, economic situation gets better, and as outcome of this, also conflict related issues. It contributes to conflict resolutions. So, as this very interesting concept, I encourage everybody who, for me, it was a great balance between financial sector and not-for-profit sector, because here you kind of earn money, but also you help community. The work you are doing is really impactful in very long-term perspective. So I encourage everyone now to learn, who is interested in this space, to learn more about this.
So coming back to that, Viktoriia, we know that you have an extensive experience in. Would you like to share a bit or like what are the factors do you consider in terms of delivering a fully funded a big project you're currently working or previously worked on?
So about development and fundraising, yes, I also worked a lot in Africa, and with I mean, if you talk about startups, I had a chance to work with as a part of a startup on initial stage when you are just few people, you have this great idea and you try to develop it, but like everybody, I mean, yes, like you kind of have your designated role, but at the end of the day, you do everything 24/7. And also, I worked for in a startup incubator as a person who actually analyzed and approved startups to become a part of incubator, and now helping investors and startups to connect. So I had an opportunity to see this from different angles, and there are always complications, but as AnaMaria mentioned before, it's always important to not to get, I would say, not to get desperate and go out there and try because there are so many opportunities. Maybe also it's important to do your research, to do your homework, to try to see what are the opportunities for your organization, to dig a bit deeper, because sometimes we see only one way and we exclude many other opportunities. So I would say that here it's very important to be able to see from different angles and explore ideas that are maybe non-conventional, because today in today's world we tend more and more to non-conventional ideas, to non-conventional ways, starting from how we work to how we do fundraising. So yes, I would encourage everyone to look more into that direction.
Great. AnaMaria, you previously mentioned that you with startups who are based on AI. So I just wanted to know that the current startups that you're working with, or the investments that you make, is it based only on Europe, or you also in Southeast Asian countries? Maybe light of that. The since your organization is more interesting, and do you think and startups will be cheap?
All right. So just to summarize the question that I got it correctly, that you asked if the investments are only in Europe or also in other countries, and if there is any tips I would share for people that are looking for investment, right? Right. All right. So basically, the investments are, I'm kind of focusing on Europe right now as a first stage. We already have investments in other countries, of course, but we're very open. It's something that like I'm always looking for good deal flow, as we call it, so good companies to invest in, and any company anywhere in the world with a very interesting business model is very welcome to contact me and send me their pitch deck, and I can be found easily on the socials. So that's something that I will always look at every pitch deck I receive. We are looking at Europe right now just because a lot of European companies want to go to the US, and this is one of the strategies to move from maybe a smaller market in Europe to the US market, which is more of a market that is, let's say, the same, right? You have one language, you have one style of approval for reimbursement in the healthcare space, for FDA approvals. So that is something like interesting in that sense, because you have so many people that are having the same language. So your device can be in one language, they're having the same approval. So once it's approved in one state, it's approved everywhere. So you can move from a European market where if you're having it approved in maybe European Union, you cannot have it in another country, or vice versa. This is why we're focusing in Europe right now. However, as I said, it's very open. So opportunities anywhere are of interest to me. Now, for some advice, perhaps to those entrepreneurs that are looking to, really gain new investments, I would really say that that's connected a little bit to three factors. The first one is the team is very important. So if you are looking for new investment for your company, ensure that you have the right team members. A lot of startup entrepreneurs, what they do is that if you came up with this idea, let's say you're a developer and then you have your product and you coded it, then you are the CEO and founder. This is not the right approach, because if you're a developer, maybe you are the best person to be your chief technology officer and to focus on your product, and not to actually go and run the company, because you're not a manager and maybe you don't have that experience. Or sometimes you're a scientist and you discovered something at your university and then you make a company out of it. There is no need for you to become, the CEO, to talk to investors, to pitch, to do the sales. So find those right people and build that team based on that, and put yourself in the right position. This is something very important, as we see it many times. Founders also become the CEOs in the beginning, and there is no need for that. It's better to hire sometimes a professional CEO that is going to keep your investors happy, that is going to keep your, that is going to do the sales for you together with the sales team and so on. Of course, it's easier said than done because startups are quite small, but that's very important. The second thing that is very important that investors look at is how much money you put from your own pocket. And this can be quantified on not only in monetarily, speaking. So I put like $1,000, but also on how much time you put. Because many times I have seen startups pitching that they say, this is a great startup, this is going to change the world, but I'm not putting any of my private money in it. I'm the founder, but I'm not going to put any of my savings in it. And that gives me as an investor the feeling that this is not interesting enough, because if you are not brave, willing, or whatever you want to call it, to put it in your own idea, then why should I put it and risk my money? So that's very important. It doesn't have to be millions. It can be $100, it can be 500, 1,000, depending where you're based, depending on the different needs of that environment. But you have to show something that you have put some personal money in it, some money maybe from friends and family that you have convinced that this is a good idea, so that the investor feels comfortable. And the last thing that I would say is agility. Changing, really having that agile approach. So changing direction if it's needed. Sometimes we see entrepreneurs, they create a product or, a service, and they say this service is, I'm just saying something now random, this computer is made for children from 9 to 12 years old in this specific area for education. And then you find out that actually this computer is very good in the hospitals. So the investors say, put it in hospitals, that's going to sell better. Sometimes entrepreneurs are very focused, like, this is my baby, I want to put it in the education sector, this is where I want it. No need to stick to that. Be more agile, put it in hospitals, and then later you can bring it to the education sector. So these are kind of 2-3 things that investors are always looking at, and then some small tips that anyone can keep in mind and can be a little bit more open towards it, or is an easy way to fix sometimes.
Sorry, we cannot hear you.
Yeah, I believe the connection is, but maybe as we wait, there is Mahmoud.
Okay, great. So I would like to ask Viktoriia one question first. You have like mentioned in your profile that you did harness the power of AI. So actually, if you share one of your experiences or regarding how did you harness the power of AI in one of your work?
Yes, sure. So, in my time of working in ITU, International Communication Union, I was managing a project that so we were developing a lot of tools and applications for internal use to facilitate the processes inside the organization and also for our partners, for member states, for government to to facilitate the processes internally and digitalize. So I would and maybe what is like I will not go a lot in technical details. Maybe give you some examples. For example, ITU has developed ITU Translate. It's an application that translates the technical language related to telecommunication better than any other like Google Translate, DeepL, or whatever else. It's powered by AI, and it can translate in 6 official UN languages. And you can download the whole document in Word or PDF, and it will provide you translation in all 6 official UN languages. Or, for example, also we were developing some tools like to because recently many like already in the UN framework there is a tendency to reduce cost to reduce operational costs because a lot of finance a lot of money goes to operations to how to run the organization and what we were trying to do with our tools and applications to actually to make a machine do the thing and not to waste the money of member states and better invest them in communities to build to connect all us as a motto of ITU. And one of those tools was also automatic. This word automatic fell out of my mind. Automatic transcription. So instead of hiring outside the staff for events to do transcription, and now there's still for big events, they're still hiring people, but for a couple of the events, for some small events, now we have our own internally developed tool that does transcription and it does it in 6 UN official UN languages, which unfortunately no human can do. Then you need because if you hire people, you need to hire minimum 3 persons speaking one of 6 official languages. It's 18 people. That's quite costly. For the organization has now like numerous numbers of events. So we were developing tools that would help us to reduce these expenses and do transcription itself. So this is like such interesting examples. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. I'm gonna throw a question to both of you. Reason I was disconnected earlier. In your line of work, who is it inspiring? I mean, really look up to someone who really inspires you to do things different. Maybe it could be a mentor, it could be a family member, it could be someone that you have worked with. Maybe AnaMaria would like to go first.
Yes, sure. In my life, I would say it's definitely family members. So I would look up to my mother, and she's a great, very, very strong woman that has achieved a lot. So that's definitely, but she's definitely not in this line of work. I would say in the investment kind of startup, maybe humanitarian kind of line of work. One of my, I would say my first boss. He's someone very, very interesting. My first two bosses actually, she and the he, both of them really helped me get to where I am today. in different ways, by boosting my confidence, by making me feel that I can do things, by giving me the floor when no one, is looking at you, especially when you start your career. And by really teaching me that when you get hired somewhere, they hired you because they want to hear what you have to say, because they want to get your input. And this is something that we forget. We started in a position as a junior person, and we're sitting there in meetings, not saying anything, waiting to learn. Of course, learning is part of it, and everything, but you also have something to bring. And so it's very important. And they really taught me that. And I always remember it. So everywhere I go, if I get hired for a new job, or if I get a consultancy, or, if I get invited somewhere to share something, I always remember that these, whoever hired you because they saw something in you, and they want to see that more in the workspace. So there's no need to be, quiet and wait for a year until you can take the floor. And without those kind of mentors, I would say, and bosses and leaders in our life, it's very difficult, of course, because you are always questioning yourself. You're not sure if you're doing well. Not everyone has the same level of confidence. So this is something that we have to build up. And I learned also from them that we have to build it up in our own time as well. It's one thing to have our directors and mentors help us, but it's also another thing that us now in our positions, we need to do the same for everyone else that is working for us. So every time I have interns, every time I have, junior people join the teams that I'm working in, I always try to do the same. I always try to take a little bit this kind of mentorship role, and then try to advise them a little bit in everything, because sometimes I want to also change stuff in the past. If I could do, take different decisions, and I try to share that with them, and try to take that role because someone else did that for me. And this is why I'm here today. So I would say those two people definitely were very, very impactful in my life, and also people that I looked up to, people I wanted to become like, and hopefully I'll be a little bit closer and closer every day to who they are, both, in their personal kind of moments, and also in their professional life. And this is something I would say to also remember, that I learned through them, that we are not only work, right? We are at work a lot of hours in the day, but we also have to remember that we are people, we are humans, and we impact everywhere we go. Even you go into a restaurant, you are impacting someone that is next to you, someone that is perhaps serving you. So this is something to really think, that we are not just looking at that career growth and that professional growth and obsessing with that sometimes, because sometimes there are many factors that you're not achieving what you want to achieve. It's not maybe related to you. You might be the best person, you have the best education, but sometimes life is like this. Someone else is getting that job you wanted. So to really think of yourself as a 360 degree with your personal life, those personal achievements, and always to take care of remembering that, hey, you have done very good because you are here today, and look, at the past where you started. And these are things that we don't do because we're at the next level. We're just looking up. So let's look a little bit in the past and look down. So that's what I would say, but I'm sure Viktoriia can add some nicer anecdotes to this.
Thank you, AnaMaria. About the role models, of course, it all begins in family. I here absolutely agree. I grew up with a father who was always motivating me. I remember and I was, I don't know, 12, he brought me like some financial books, and I was like, oh my God, how can I read it at this age? Like, it's not human. But now I am actually so grateful that he was forcing me to read so much books. And like, I mean, as I was growing, I was asking myself for that literature, because that's something that was developing my world. That's something that was a first stage that showed me that the world is so beautiful, so broad, and so interesting, and there are so many things out there. Just just if you have this will to learn and to explore, to discover, you can do anything. That's how I was raised, and I'm very grateful for that. Then I remember when I was a student, when I studied international relations, once we had guest speaker in university, and that was a lady, Arancha Gonzalez. Now I think at least some while ago she was a minister of finance of Spain, but at that time she was head of international organization called International Trade Center. And these organizations, what they're doing, they helping small and medium enterprises in developing and least developed worlds to come to international market. And she was talking about the projects they're doing. And one of the projects was actually with fashion designer Stella McCartney. And I was like, oh my God. So a lady, like some ladies in a refugee camp in Yemen were doing leather pieces for designs of Stella McCartney. And so they connected those and in so many projects they were connected those like absolutely you can say unconnected world, because how else those two universes could actually meet. And she was so passionate talking about that. I was like, oh my God, I want a job that I am talking about my job also with this fire. And the thing that they did, I was always looking after. That's why my career passed like from human rights startups all together, because I was always looking for something that actually combines this uncombinable. Like we're doing something good, but we're also making some money, because that's at the end of the day it's also very important. So yes, that's what inspired me, and of course, I'm glad that throughout my journey, professional, academic, I had the chance to meet so many great people, to work with so many great people. And my advice, also like when I was in university, we had these guest speakers nonstop, and it doesn't cost you anything just to go say hi, maybe exchange contacts, ask for coffee, or during COVID, we learned how to do it online through LinkedIn. We started to do virtual coffees. In my previous job, we had this thing like a mystery coffee where you're getting matched with random people around, like thousands of people working at organizations. So what I'm trying to say here is that build your people and role models and inspiration is actually all around us. It's important to look around and actually go and try to talk to somebody who is sitting next to you. Thank you.
Thank you for putting it out so beautifully. As AnaMaria mentioned about her bosses, and as you mentioned that one of your bosses actually encouraged you to read more and more books and explore more. So now that you both have reached a significant level in your industry, in your respective work areas, so do you think that the need of a mentor still exists? Or do you think this is like a lifelong journey that at whatever stage that you're in, you can always like seek maybe some wisdom, some advice from someone that you work now, or someone probably who's a senior to you in the industry, a veteran, maybe something like that?
Yes, I absolutely agree. I think you don't have to have like a mentor, kind of the mentor or something like that. It's what you said, that you can reach out to people. What I found so beautiful, what Viktoriia said also with the COVID time, is that you can reach out to so many people. If you write to me on LinkedIn, I will most probably reply 99% of the time, unless you're trying to sell something maybe. But the idea is that if you would write to me a message saying, oh, I want to work for the UN and I don't know how to start, I will probably reply something or take a 10-15 minute phone call to go through that, because someone else did that for me. And I find it's so interesting. And it's not about like having that one mentor, because you are changing in every stage. Like when we were 20, when you are 30, when you are 40, you are a different person, you have different needs, you have different, you have a family, maybe you don't have a family, etc. So your life is changing constantly. Maybe you live in your country, maybe you move abroad. You cannot have just one person, because that person will be limited. Otherwise, we could, as my mother would say, just listen to her and everything would be fine. But you have to really find the right people in the environment you are in, or the environment you want to go to. And sometimes strangers are the most interesting people that help you the most. And it's fantastic. I was reading an article some days ago of a guy who was investing in similar companies that I'm looking at. And I just wrote to him, he had his LinkedIn, he wrote the article, he was interviewed by someone, and he replied to me. And then I had a call with him. It was very interesting. I learned a lot, and it's an open door out there. So I would say, yes, no need to have one mentor, but definitely, we are humans, and sometimes we forget that human interaction is the most beautiful thing we have, and we get ourselves so much into like the work and the, you know, this kind of daily life and daily routine, and we forget about the people even next to us. I mean, sometimes you meet, I take the train a lot, and you meet so many interesting people on the train, and who could be your next mentor, who could give you even an advice. Taxi drivers are very big on this, but yeah, so definitely yes for mentor from my side, but not like the one mentor, but any. But yeah, I don't know, Viktoriia, what is your take on that?
Yes, I absolutely agree, especially about taxi drivers. I think that it's important to have. Yes, I mean, I will not repeat myself as I said before. Absolutely important to go out and reach to everyone you want. But also, I think it's important, for sure, it's important to have in your life someone to whom you can go to ask a question, or, you know, to discuss some concerns or whatever. It can be your mentor, it can be your collaborator, your partner. But for sure, I totally agree with what Maria said. We all need this. We do need this in private and professional life.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I'm gonna throw a difficult question to both of you. So, what are some of the biggest misconceptions about your work? And maybe you can take turns in answering that.
Biggest misconceptions. That's an interesting one. I think for the investment world, definitely, I think Viktoriia would agree that it's only men investing, and that's it. This is like something, because two maybe, that it's only men investing, and also that you need a lot of money to invest. And actually, there is so many opportunities out there that I myself was not aware of before starting this journey. That you don't need so much money. Sometimes you find, you know, companies that you can invest very little. I mean, starting sometimes for like 200 even, and become a very, very early, you know, shareholder. Or you can do group investments. Another thing I didn't know a long time ago, and I learned, you can gather, you know, your family and friends and get together like a little bit of a more decent amount, let's say, and you can run this little corporation, mini kind of syndicate, as they call it in the investment world, together, and manage the money of everyone. And that's also a very interesting thing to do when you're a student, and you find like small deals maybe here and there. And also that investors are all like these old guys, you know, like sitting behind their computers. Now you have a lot of new Gen Z, especially, doing all these cryptos and things like that, and that's very interesting. And I'm not in the crypto world at all, but I just find it fascinating. And this is, you know, something very, very special and different, and something that people don't think. You think that you need to take like so many classes and you have to learn so much. Demystifying a little bit the investment, I would say it's a misconception, definitely.
Yes, I agree, and maybe to add, I would say also there is this perception that it's too risky. I think we are going a little bit away from this concept already, because there is more funds coming out, like co-investment concept is more popular now. But yes, still, I think that it's more towards the individual investors, individuals who would like to invest by themselves, they money, or like what AnaMaria said, that this misconception that you might need a lot of money, and yes, there is still as this sometimes we can hear, oh, it's too risky. Then I would add maybe also that you have to be an expert in what you invest. Of course, you have to understand, but you cannot be an expert in everything. I mean, we are working with healthcare, with agriculture, with fintech, software. You cannot be expert in everything. When you receive pitch decks, then you know your job is to find the person who would consult you on certain issues, but you should not be scared that, oh, I don't understand anything in surgery. Of course, that's why you're not a surgeon, that's why you're doing what you're doing. That's normal. Yeah, so I would say that, like, that's too, in my opinion, adding to what AnaMaria mentioned, too, also quite common misconception is that you need to be an expert, and it's too risky.
Thank you so much for answering that. Another adding to that, my previous question. So, AnaMaria, you told us that you work with different kinds of investors, different kinds of firms, and Viktoriia, you're working as a business development manager right now. So, like it's a common thing that everyone faces. But what's your specific strategy to resolve conflict within your team, or the kind of group that you're working with? So there are different kinds of opinions, different kinds of advices from everyone. So how do you actually resolve that conflict when you come across it?
Just walk away and go home. I'm kidding. Let them do the conflict. I would say the first thing to do is to listen to the people separately, because I've had a lot of conflicts in the teams that I've worked with, and it's just a normal thing. I mean, people cannot think that you are working in a team and everything is beautiful and everybody loves each other, because you are in a family and you have conflict, and then people are related by blood. So obviously, in a team where there's competitiveness, sometimes people are applying for the same job, sometimes people need more attention from the team leader. So it's normal to have conflict. Now, if you create the team with a nice environment, that's the first way to kind of mitigate. I believe more in mitigating these kind of things instead of like solving them later. But then once I've had a few conflicts in between team members that I managed, or conflicts, personal conflicts, I believe that it's always important to hear both sides separately and to give people that time and validation of, like, I hear you, I understand your point of view, and also I understand your feelings. I think this is very important, because a lot of us, we kind of do not validate the feelings. I mean, if I'm offended by something, I'm offended by something. I don't care if you don't understand it or not. It could be cultural, it could be anything. It offends me. It could be something from my past, it could be something from my childhood. You don't know my life, it could be a trigger. So to really validate that I understand, and also if you're offended, it's validated, and you have the right to be offended, and it's okay. And to listen to both people separately, and then to try to then see, okay, we both validated this, you have the right for this, but we have to work together, and how we can move forward. Because unfortunately at work you have to see each other. If you work in an office 9 to 5, and it's not nice. You spend more time with people at work than with your family, and so in the end, eventually you have to move forward, and to move forward without that grudge. So I believe, as I said, in mitigation, in the sense, when new team members come, I always try to recruit with, like, for character sometimes, rather than even skills, because skills you can build, but character is very difficult to change. And something very important is that to always kind of make the team members feel that this is a good place, it's a nice, positive space. So if you have that feeling that someone is being unfair to you, please come to me before, or please discuss it. Let's not escalate it. Escalation is, I would say, the last thing that I would do. But really important is validation. I cannot stress it more, of the feelings, because sometimes I've been in conflict positions as well, and someone just disregards your feelings, and they say, yeah, but why are you offended by this? This is so ridiculous. I mean, you are offended, it is up to you, and nobody should question that. But maybe we can have a conflict with Viktoriia now and see how we can resolve it on live.
That would be for sure interesting role play.
I cannot lie, I loved the first approach.
For sure, we all do. I would also say that, it's very important when you are a team leader and your team members are having a conflict between themselves. It's very important to stay objective and calm, and not to get involved, and show each party that they are treated equally, they're heard, you hear, you listen, and that each of them has opportunity to express their side of the story in an equal manner. I think that's very important, because to show this support and sensitivity in a way to a person. Yeah, I agree that walk away is the best one, but unfortunately we cannot do this, because then there is a risk that all team will walk away at some point. Of course, I am also for mitigation, and actually, to do your best to avoid conflicts by building a strong relationship in a team. So here we come with the team building, team retreats, and so on, to have this culture of course, it's impossible. We say, and I'm originally Ukrainian. In Ukraine, we say that in a couple there is no fight, and one doesn't love another. So something is wrong. That's not happening in any environment, private, professional. There are always some issues because if you are involved, if you are interested, if you're passionate about what you're doing, of course, sometimes there are some heated discussions and so on. But it's very important also to for you as an individual to know when to stop, because we all know ourselves. We know what can trigger which emotions, and we also know in what setting you are right now. So, and in certain setting, you cannot allow yourself to behave, to make a scene, basically. So you have to be careful and also watch out in yourself.
What a fun way to answer this difficult question. So I have one last question from my. Can I hand it over to my? What are some of the imperative skills that you think is required to have for the coming years? Because AnaMaria works in tech industry. She works in AI. Who are also work with varied kinds of products. So just top 3 skills I'd like to mention. Imperative.
I would say top 3 skills for the coming years. I'll say something very controversial, maybe, but probably creativity, because that's the only thing that you cannot automate, and something like very, very difficult to come up with. I'm myself like not the most creative person. I believe very much there will be a lot of quality, let's say, versus quantity, because now we can see with the, of course, the most recent example of ChatGPT that everyone started using and talking about and automating their work with. There is a lot of quantity there, but the quality is there, of course. But in the sense that what does the human bring to that additional, in this discussion we have, perhaps if you have a ChatGPT telling you how you can resolve conflict, probably it gives you a better answer than we did. But then you cannot have the humor, you cannot have the emotional connection that we had here in this chat. So I would say like definitely this creativity part, like really looking at yourself and trying to build that creative part that we don't do so much. Before we were focusing so much in studying like a lot of math, a lot of physics, calculations, things that today you can do with very advanced computers. And when quantum computing is going to come closer and closer and closer to reality, and in some places it is already, we will do very big calculations, and then physics and mathematics and all those sciences will advance even more. So this is not where it's left, but where it's left is really the creative side that the human person brings in. And how can we harness this creativity? I don't have the answer, but I would say this is perhaps like a skill that maybe it's not even recognized as a skill today, but something to work on. So this is what I would focus. Of course, the typical things that are human related, emotional intelligence, speaking to people. I mean, having some sort of common sense. Common sense is one of the top things that it seems so like random, but people with common sense, I have to say, have more success because that common sense really helps them. But how do you develop that? It's not, you are not born with this common sense and you know where to go to the right direction. To develop then by talking to people, by having experiences. So I would say these are things that are not skills, maybe like go do coding or learn new languages. Maybe this is not something like we think today, but something a little bit different for the future. I believe that this is what will stay. And I don't know, Viktoriia, what you think about this.
I agree completely, and especially about creativity. I think that also like with social media and everything, it seems like you're supposed to be also creative, but then when you go to the bottom of it, it's not that way, for sure. I would add also adaptability, because the world is very fast, the life is very fast, everything is changing so fast. Something new emerges, something old gets, upgraded, changed, replaced. This ability to adapt fast, that's also very important, I think. Also, maybe what I would add is entrepreneurial mindset, that you don't need to want to create your own business or to found your own organization to be an entrepreneur. For me, entrepreneur mindset means actually to be to be able to to see the opportunities. And what Maria was talking a lot before, this feeling to be able to identify opportunities among what's going on around you. I would say those are two very important skills that we need in the future.
Well, you both have summarized some very important soft skills answers. Well, I had a lot of fun asking my
Oh, unfortunately.
Mahbub, to save the day.
hand it over to Mahbub now. Mahbub, would like to ask.
Thank you, Ms. Famida, for giving me the floor. So I just would like to ask two questions to Victoria and two questions to AnaMaria, and to conclude our session. So, but before going there, I am so stunned and would like to share that AnaMaria, you were awarded the United Nations International Telecommunications Union's Innovation Award and recognized as one of the top 100 Swiss digital shapers in 2022 and 2023. So, why they gave you this award? You can answer it later, but before that, I would like to ask two questions to you: Is how one organization can achieve positive social and economic impact, and why incubation program is needed to foster startup entrepreneurship for a country. And let me go to Victoria. So I'm just asking first. I would like to ask Victoria. You did three majors. You studied two. You have two bachelors in law and international relations, which is really different from one another. And you did your MBA in management of international organizations. So, what motivated you to, like, we even have faced difficulty having one major, but you had three, and also, okay, I can ask you the another two questions after AnaMaria.
Sure, I'll go fast because I also want to know what Victoria, why she did these three majors and how she did it,
Yeah.
most importantly. Definitely social and economic impact. When it comes to social impact, that means creating more jobs. When it comes to economic impact, and that means creating more business opportunities, so more companies. And to link it to the incubation program, what a lot of governments are doing today in Europe, and I think it's a fantastic model that governments should do this worldwide. It's really connected to that creation of those entities, be it a foundation, an institution, whatever it is, that are funded by some public funds or other type of funding mechanisms, depending on the different countries, that are supporting entrepreneurs. Because it is one thing to have people employed, and it's a completely different thing to have a country of entrepreneurs where they're constantly creating businesses, which is the economic impact. They're paying taxes, and then they're hiring people. And the social impact of it, in addition to the hiring, is the creation of other jobs around. So, for instance, in Geneva, the example of Fongit, where I used to work previously, is a beautiful example. This organization is funded by the Canton of Geneva, support entrepreneurs, focused with their companies in Geneva. And all of these entrepreneurs, they have created their companies, they have hired people, so people that maybe didn't have a job or people that would never come to Geneva otherwise. And these entrepreneurs, some of them have gone to create these companies and grow them very, very big. So one very, very famous example is Proton, which is a privacy email security company. And Proton, what they have done is now they are around 400, if I'm not mistaken, people in total, and a big number of that is in Geneva. And because there are so many people in their offices in an area which is industrial, and now there's so many restaurants opening, and then there's a hairdresser, and there's an esthetician, and there's a supermarket. So all of these people to serve that community, and they all live around their offices. So a lot of places have been rented, and the rented price has gone maybe higher. So maybe that's good for the local community there. So this is what we talk about economic and social impact. So I'm a very big believer in putting these public funds, some of that into the hands of entrepreneurs in terms of loans, in terms of convertible loans, in terms of grants, so that those entrepreneurs can create those businesses, because this is the fastest way to achieve that. And if you have only a nation of employees and employers, this will not be working, because you have those big companies, those multinationals that are not really pushing that. And that's what's so beautiful about the School of Entrepreneurship Development, of course, is that it's pushing these new leaders of tomorrow, the new entrepreneurs of tomorrow, to create that. And sometimes, you can have a small business on the side as well. You don't have to be the entrepreneur of a multi-million-dollar company, because that's what people sometimes think. I mean, I met a young girl, which was very interesting. She was going to university, and she was making this like special juices, weight loss juices, and she became actually quite having an income out of it. Maybe she was not a multi-millionaire, but she had a good, decent income, and she was going to university. She didn't have to do another job, and that's totally entrepreneurship. So sometimes people think, to do that economic and social impact, we need to really have something very big. And about the award, I have no idea why they gave me those awards. We should ask the judging committee. I guess I did something right, but my mission in life is to really help companies, to help people to achieve this economic and social impact. So maybe I did something, or maybe it was a mistake. So Mahabub will have to find it out later. But I want to find out now about Viktoriia's majors. I don't know why I never asked her this question.
Yeah. Just before that, have you watched like Captain Planet and the Planeteers, the cartoon, the animation series?
No, I haven't watched it. I need to watch it.
Yeah, it's so amazing. I mean, there are like 5 teenage students, and they, like they have a ring, so they gather it and they just put it upward. So there is a captain hero comes up. So it takes 5 rings and people to like put their hand above. So Viktoriia, you have only 2 more measures to like take. So you will be the captain hero of this planet. So it's my suggestion. So over to Viktoriia, how do you utilize your 3 measures at what you do, and as well as like as the clock is running very fast, uh, what are the strategies according to you to promote digital literacy, and why it is so important? And last question to you is, how do you guide and support to foster the growth of startups?
Just because she has 3 majors, you cannot ask her all these questions.
Yeah, that's very serious questions. I'll start with the one that actually you're all interested about. It's obviously only about majors. I find it, actually, to be serious, I find this a perfect combination of law, international relations management for what I'm doing. As I think I mentioned something in the beginning, that I started to study law because I was thinking that I will become a corporate lawyer, and my life will be comfortable, great, and predictable. But unfortunately, my personality is a bit bigger. Unfortunately, for my parents, for my father, who actually wanted to have a proper corporate lawyer in the family, I decided that no, it's not enough. It's too boring. I don't want to live this life. I want to have something more interesting. And I was very interested in human rights, and I was working also with human rights with the Ukrainian mission to UN and mission of Afghanistan to UN. But then, and like through this journey, I realized that okay, human rights great, working in UN with human rights great, but we are kind of sitting here and talking. We are working for resolutions and talking, and nothing's happening. So that's how I moved to international relations diplomacy, to have this broader scope, more opportunities to actually do something with to save the world. Basically, that was the plan. And but to have intention, understanding, and the will, unfortunately, is not enough, because you need to know how to actually do it. And there, where management came on stage to learn the processes, to learn how to manage, how to organize. Because my superpower is organizing everything. I love organization. I am very detail-oriented, sometimes too much. That's my weak and strong side, actually. So, but to learn how to do it efficiently, to learn how to do it with benefit for your project, that's it. I mean, I I think I am okay for now. Maybe in a few years I'll decide to learn medicine. I don't know, but hopefully not. In worst case, something that doesn't require too much studies. And talking about digital literacy, um, I had a chance to work with a few European governments on the digital assessment. We were like in back in my career in the EU, ITU, and we were assessing the digital skills of population in a few countries like Albania, North Estonia, Ukraine, and so on. And to my surprise, maybe outside of Europe, everybody's like, oh, in Europe, everybody's connected and there's always a connection. People are like doing all this online stuff non-stop. No, absolutely not. There are so many categories of populations that are left out of this connectivity. And but to understand this and to actually think what to do with it or like look for solutions, you first need to kind of find a problem. So I think it's what I would say before promoting, you need to know what are the needs. And for example, this project that ITU is doing on digital skills assessment of the general public or startups or on the economic sector or academic sector or elderly population, because they are very actually fragile on this aspect. It's very important because this allows us to identify the need and then already look for solutions. I mean, there are plenty of conventional and non-conventional ways. Of course, starting from trainings, promotions through government channels, finishing to involvement of youth to help their grandparents. I recently read about an amazing project. There was a campaign in one of the European countries where grandkids were actually encouraged to teach their grandparents how to use like all these apps and do online shopping. We all love shopping, please. So through all these kind of little activities that are very close to our daily life, we can motivate each other to become more digital literate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It has been a very lovely session and very insightful. The caliber and the impressive experiences you have so far, and also the three majors as well. So the thing is, it's so amazing, and our time limitation is our time is limited. That's why, or otherwise we could be, like discuss a lot of things. But the thing is, the way the people like you, the way you contribute through your knowledge and information and sharing your experiences. Maybe it took like maybe 10 years or 20 years, but within 1 hour you just shared the gist of your experiences with the youths of Bangladesh, and it is an honor for us, like to have people like you. And in general it would not be so easier to have you, like to reach out to you also. So it's been a pleasure, and really grateful to you for sharing your insights and knowledge with us. And ACD as an organization will also practice some of your strategies, and we will also promote doing several multiple measures. So the thing is, thank you so much, and we want to share our sincere gratitude and very best of luck for your future endeavors.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on this amazing series as well.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting, and yes, congratulations, and big thank you for organizing this.
And thank you, Ms. Famida, for your wonderful hosting. And have a good day.
Have a good day.